Welcome to another jewelry making video brought to you by keepsakecrafts.net. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this rather fun and funky bracelet. I'll give you some design tips, and one fun thing is that instead of using wire wrapping techniques, we're going to hold it all together with wax linen twine and knots. So to make this jewelry, you will first of all need some chain. That's actually how my design started. I was given this chain by some friends who work in clocks, and this is brass chain. You'll also need a focal point, and that was the next piece I went for. I tried to find something that would work with the chain. This is actually a piece that I carved from super ultra light polymer clay and then baked. If you get Christy Friesen's book Flourish, she tells you how to do it. And then I painted it with some metal paints and patina paints that makes it look like an old metal piece, but it's actually very light, and I have a hole drilled in each end. But if you don't want to make your own piece, or if you have something else in mind, you can always use a large bead as a focal bead, like one of these large ceramic beads, or even one of these bracelet cuffs. This is another polymer clay piece, but you can buy these made in different metals. So just find a focal piece that this has a bit of a curve, so you could see it'll be nice as a bracelet. You'll need a clasp. A toggle clasp is good. Some kind of metal ring is interesting, some beads, and some wax and linen twine. This stuff is great because you don't need a needle. The wax just makes it stiff. If you're having trouble getting through a hole, you just kind of roll it in your fingers. You can cut it to a point if you have to. So what I'm going to do is have half of my bracelet consist of 2 strands of chain. I'm not going to cut these yet. I'm going to save that till the end to determine the length. And then it's just time to start putting all your pieces together and decide what looks good for a design. I have these kind of striped corrugated beads that I thought would go. Notice I have a whole mix of metals. If you put only 2 different metals together and they don't match, they just look like they don't match. But if you put several different metal finishes together, suddenly they just all work together. So maybe one of these here between the, oh, definitely a couple actually between the toggle. You always want a few beads so that you can bend your bar of your toggle clasp. Maybe one of these. See, I'm just designing on the fly. One thing, if you're going to use wax linen twine, you do need to be sure that it will go through all of your beads. So they do need to be a slightly larger hold variety. So now that I have a general idea of how I want these laid out, you want to cut yourself about 3 times as much twine as you think you're going to need, and then some. It's not expensive. I just cut a chunk. And I'm going to start with my focal bead, fold it in half, and then make a knot. Now this will probably move around, but I'm going to make a knot right there at the tip of the leaf. And you just grab the 2 pieces, treat them as one, and make an overhand knot. Next, slide on your other beads just on one strand. And then make a knot in between those. Now when you make your knot, don't pull it down like this so that it bends. You want the knot to basically act like a spacer on the other side of the bead. So there may be, depending on the shape and size of the bead that you have, there may be a little bit of slack. There. And then repeat. To add all the beads. And then just knot in between each one. And you can see why I cut fair amount of twine, because the knots take up more than you might think. And then the last step would be to add 1/2 of your clasp. And again, I'm just going to do a square knot here, so right over left, and then left over right. And because we've got kind of a funky, earthy look here, I'm going to leave like 1/2-inch tails. And then go over here. So I've gone ahead and sped up this part because I thought you might like to see the process, but not the entire length. So here I am just repeating what I did on the other side of the leaf, putting a nice long piece of twine through the hole and then tying an overhand knot through the tip. I put it at the tip rather than at the side because I was concerned that possibly it could break off the tip of the leaf if it was too short. And now I'm just sliding on another bead, just like before. Now with this ring, you could crisscross the twine through the ring if you wanted, but I decided I liked the look better of having the ring left open. So I'm tying an overhand knot after my last bead, and then I'm just going to tie this ring on with a square knot, just like I did the other part of the toggle clasp. Right over left and left over right. I seem to have gotten confused here, but there we go. Now I got it figured out. Right over left, and then making sure that I'm not pulling it so tight that the bracelet is stiff, but leave it just a little loose so that it drapes nicely. And then you can trim off those tails. And just checking to make sure it's all lying the way I want. Cut another piece of twine, thread it through the ring, another overhand knot that sits on the outside of the ring. And again, just kind of constantly checking and inspecting. I decided I didn't like the look of those little long tails, and so I trimmed those short. That's the beauty of the wax and the wax linen, is that the wax is sticky, so it really makes it so that you can trim the tails very close and they won't come undone. Now here I've changed my mind. I've decided I don't really care for that bead, and so I'm going to take that knot out. Not an easy thing to do, but it can be done. And awl is a helpful tool, not only for taking knots out, which is what I'm doing here, but also if you have trouble placing your knots where you want them, use an awl to put it inside the knot and then slide it to just the place that you want. So here I am, still fiddling, taking this knot out. That's what you get for making design decisions on the fly, but it happens. Yep, got it off, and now going to look at a couple other options. Make visual decisions visually. Look at it and see. And I've decided I like the contrast of the oval shape with the round shape right there. So slide on the bead, tie an overhand knot. Now I'm clearing all my beads out of the way because it's time to put on the chain. I'm trying it on my wrist. Sorry, I know you can't see that really well, but just to get an idea of how much chain I'm going to need. And then zinged out of the pliers. So let's try that again. And I'm cutting it a little bit longer than I need. Actually, you don't so much cut it as you open out a link and just remove a link. This is very heavy chain. So just open out a link, and now you have your length. And it's going to be doubled. And at first I thought I'd put the threads through that middle link, and then I decided that no, I wanted the threads through each of 2 links. So I'm going to take off that middle link and have 2 equal lengths. And then the 2 threads of the twine go through each of the end links of my pieces of chain. And then those are just tied in an overhand knot, over, under, around, and through, or over, around, and through. I think I did that about 3 times, just to make sure that was nice and secure. I did it in one direction, and then did it in the other direction, and then one last time, I might have been overkill here to do that many knots, but the chain is heavy, so I wanted to be sure it was secure. Tried it on again to see just how much extra chain I had, and then repeated with chain nose pliers just to twist the extra links off. It's heavy chain. I had to open them really wide to get them off. One last piece of twine, doubled, and then I wanted to put it through the toggle. The hole's a little tight, so the thing that worked best, sometimes you can grab it with chain nose pliers, but I just really twisted it well, and then it finally went through. So through my clasp, and then I made sure my chains were lying straight, and then 2 pieces of twine through each of the other end links, and a square knot again, right over left, left over right. Trim those tails, and you have a bracelet. And here it is. I'm just trying it on for size. And notice the beads on the bracelet I'm wearing are actually the same ones, or some of the same ones that I used. It's the exact same toggle clasp as well, but a very different look. Alright, so there it is, a bracelet. I'm happy. Kind of funky and different. So here's another look at the bracelet we made today. This is a rather different and unusual project, but I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you don't want to make something exactly like this, that it's given you ideas for how you can take a different array of objects and jewelry findings and make yourself some very unique jewelry. Thank you so much for watching Keepsake Crafts videos. Please be sure to check out my blog at that name, keepsakecrafts.net, where I have lots of crafting and sewing ideas and inspiration. On the screen there are 2 more videos that you might enjoy watching. Also be sure to click the thumbs up if you like that video, and also click subscribe so that you don't miss a thing. So, happy creating! Thanks again for watching. Bye-bye.